Welcome to Celebrating Everyday People, where we recognize those amazing people doing amazing work out there. My co host is Malcolm Berman, and my name is Yana Larson. You can find us on malcolmpresents.com and on Malcolm's YouTube. We also have a Facebook page, and we're on Buzzsprout and all major directories and beyond as we enhance our online presence. Today, our guest is Greg Coleridge, who is the co director of the National Move to Amend campaign, a former member of the National Governing Board of Common Cause, and also a former director of the Northeast Ohio American Friends Service Committee. But that's just a small list. Formed in September 2009, Move to Amend is a coalition of hundreds of organizations and hundreds of thousands of individuals committed to social, environmental, and economic justice, ending corporate rule, and building a vibrant democracy that is genuinely accountable to the people, not corporate interests. As a longtime activist, Greg said back in 2021, I've been working to end corporate constitutional rights for 25 years, before most people ever heard of corporate personhood, and more than a decade before the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It began when it struck me that all the peace, justice, and environmental problems I was working on for a social action organization in Ohio wasn't addressing the core issues of who governs, who decides, and who has the power to determine the kinds of laws and regulations we have. The answer to all these questions was not us, not people. So here we are in 2025. These words still ring true and with even more alarm, at least to me. Clearly, we are getting closer to that proverbial edge. Greg, welcome. And please help us.
Yeah, Greg, we need help.
Well, first off, thank you so much, Yana and Malcolm, for having me. And yeah, sadly, very sadly, those words of a couple of years ago do still ring true. I wish they weren't. Uh,
Yes.
I
Well,
wish
We
they
thought
were no longer
everything
relevant.
was fine.
it's getting worse now because it's no longer any pretext. They're not pretending to be anything. They're saying exactly what they want.
It is worse in that regard, but the flip side to that is that paradoxically, it is now clearer and more evident and easier to connect the dots. So for anyone who's just sort of casually participating and observing, and I don't know who that may be, how can anybody casually, given what's going on? But there still are many people out there because life happens and people are just focused on what they do or distracted, are they not, by the so many forms of distraction that exist in our society. But truly, what has gone on over the past couple of years have made so much clear, so much more blatant, and so much more flagrant that we, the people, truly are not the deciders, are not the definers, are not those who are making fundamental decisions that affect our lives, our communities, the world around us. So, the flip side of that is, well, it's pretty clear that people we elect, they're not going to save it. We got to save ourselves. It's up to us. Now, we need people, better people and better laws and the like, to be on the inside. But ultimately, what history shows and what social movements in this country historically from day one shows, even before day one, in terms of the colonial revolution, is that it's been people who have come together to form social movements that have really made the kind of change to the extent that we have been able to make change, given how it's difficult to do so in any fundamental way. But it always has been up to us and it always will be. So we just need to take that earnestly, responsibly, and seriously.
Well,
Your
well,
questions that you asked back in 2021 are just so prophetic. Who governs, who decides, and who has the power to determine the kinds of laws and regulations we have? I mean, you must have had a crystal ball that you looked into somehow and you could just see gloom and doom ahead, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Again, I use the word sadly. Sadly, these issues have gone on for a very long time. I mean, again, it's sort of more flagrant and blatant, but when truly, seriously have we the people kind of been in charge of decisions fundamentally affecting our lives. We the people have never been all the people. Going back to day one, women obviously did not have fundamental rights. People of color did not have fundamental rights. People without money, it was only white male property owners originally that had those powers to decide, right, and to govern. And so what this history of this country has been, in part, when it comes to social improvement, has been basically one of those who were not included have been, organizing themselves, educating themselves, and psychologically coming to the realization that they have the right to decide for themselves and having the wisdom and courage to do that and forming movements that have driven themselves into the Constitution where, quite honestly, they should have been all along.
Yeah,
And so that still continues.
I have to tell you that the more, as this presidency goes on, the more it comes to the conclusion, like people, really don't care about democracy or what a country stands for. The big thing is prices going down? How much money am I making? It's not really a philosophy. It's not really, I mean, because that you have a 50-50 break, whether,
Mhm.
what the president should do. I mean, a lot of them think, oh, gee, we should get all those mineral rights from Greenland, which he just appointed a new, uh, sort of like an ambassador to Greenland. The same way, and he says, yeah, Greenland should be ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like because they have the mineral rights that we need, and people really don't care about that, or they don't care about deporting people. It's broken 50-50. But what everybody cares about is how much are eggs, how much
That
are
was before. Now they're like I can only buy one doll for my daughter or whatever,
right. The
he's
whole thing depends on money. Am I making more money? Are
and
prices down? And that's gonna. I'm sad to say that's going to happen on the next midterm election. If the prices are down, they're going to be voted in again. If
but in
prices are up, they're
January
going to
when
change.
the
Yeah,
health
well,
insurance costs go up, I mean, maybe that will be an awakening. Who knows what it takes to get the people moving.
yeah, well, certainly, when people are hurting, one of the purposes of government, any government at any time, in any place, has been and certainly should be why we have that is to provide some sort of basic grounding and baseline for, safety, security, um, health, safety, and welfare. That should be, some of the basic core responsibilities of our collective institution that we call government. And to the extent that it truly represents us, you're going to have then that institution that tries to do that. So, I sort of get that part of it, but you're quite right, Malcolm, in that, so um, so many people too often will wear their, if you will, consumer hat as opposed to their democracy hat. Why isn't that we are not sort of authentically having the power, because it all comes down to power, the power to decide things. Um, we would rather just sort of leave it to others. And so that's why we have this system of a Republican form of government that too many people like too much in that we're just going to elect people that sort of represent us so that we can go off and do what we really want to do, have fun and entertainment and those sorts of
Yeah.
things, instead of understanding that okay, to a certain extent it's okay to have some extent having representatives represent us, but there needs to be a healthy dose of direct democracy, direct governing, direct control by
Mhm.
us. But that takes time, that takes energy, that takes sort of commitment to pay attention to things, in which case, obviously you can't go about being worried then about, you know, having a good time and all. And so our culture has been conditioned, it's been created that way to create a combination of distractions, but also to create a sense of inevitability that things have gotten so bad, so difficult, so big, so powerful that you can't do anything about it. So don't worry about it. Just leave it to, those people you elect and just go off and be, resigned, but go off and just, feel good about consuming and entertaining yourself. So the system, to a certain extent, is created in those ways to make people deferential, fearful, certainly unconnected to one another, because coming together is extremely dangerous in the eyes of the, power elite. And to make sure that people don't sort of understand how one comes to organize, because it's people, when you look at sort of leaders, you think, oh, they're born, the John Waynes. No, they're skills that can be learned once they're practiced, but we don't practice them because we don't learn them in our culture, in all of our institutions. We aren't sort of taught to be self-actualizing people and to organize with other people. We're taught to defer. We're taught to be obedient, and that is lethal.
Yeah, well, I think as far as I remember or know, most people don't want to be the leader. Most people want to be the followers, but they want someone to follow that agrees with them. That you know what I mean? They don't want to go out and do the work. Like what I'm seeing now is I'm a product, of the '60s and the '70s. What our country stood for is, again, I always believe we did the right thing when we tried to protect people, the smaller people, the different countries. And we accepted the poor people in that were hungry and we fed them. And that was totally different what he wants to do with the golden visas.
Mm.
You can come to the country if you give $1 million, to come in, or $5 million and you get different cards. And he says we don't want the poor people anymore. We want to get the people from Sweden or Norway, which also happen to be, white Caucasians.
Yeah.
And the ones he's getting out are the minorities, the Latinos, the blacks, I mean, let's get rid of them. We want when they say "Make America Great Again," it's like "Make America White Again."
Mm.
That's my message that I'm
Yeah,
getting.
what's encouraging though is we've seen over the last year really people becoming more active, becoming whether they call themselves leaders, because oftentimes that has a connotation of, oh, I have to sort of be up in front and I have to know everything. But there's a different kind of definition of being a leader. That's sort of being an enabler,
Mm.
a facilitator, a person who works with, it's sort of horizontal and not vertical. And I think whether people sort of overtly define it that way or not, I think people are much more comfortable in sort of working together and being part of something that's sort of bigger than themselves. And we've seen that over the past year. A heck of a lot of people that are turning out and, flexing their, if you will, democratic muscles in limited ways, to be sure, and protesting. There's a lot of other things that need to be done, but that's been an important first step.
Mm. Well,
Well,
again,
with move I'm sorry, Malcolm. With move to amend, have you seen a greater surge in attendance? Because I know you already are a very active organization.
Yeah, and that's a good question, and it's sort of a paradox, if you will, in that, no question, people are much more tuned and aware of things like, my gosh, we definitely live in a corporate state. I mean, look at, Doge and Musk, who gave $250 million, and all those billionaires that are in the cabinet, although there were billionaires in other cabinets before. But again, the blatancy and the clarity and the almost pride of it all has resulted in people becoming much more aware of sort of the capturing and the hijacking of government by the corporate state and of billionaires. So all that's been to the good. And in terms of people mobilizing and turning out and responding, reacting and resisting to all those individual
and,
harms that we've seen. So that's been on the good side. The sort of flip side to that is the kind of work that we do at Move to Amend is we're trying to pass a constitutional amendment to declare that corporations are not people, a corporation is not a person, and that money's not speech, money's property. If money's speech, those who have the most money have the most speech, not a real good definition of
yes.
democracy. And so while people, on the one hand, were really much more sort of engaged and active, they're sort of doing that defensive work, that resisting and responding. And what we're doing and what we're calling for is a lot more sort of visionary, is a lot more sort of trying to build a base, of trying to build a movement that isn't sort of flipping a switch. because I wish we could sort of flip a switch and have
So
a
it's like
constitutional amendment.
cleaning house and getting back to the basics and kind of redirecting how it can be better and bigger and better.
Yeah, but it's also sort of instead of playing defense, it's playing offense.
Yeah.
We're
Hmm.
now trying to envision, we're calling for an alternative to what's going on right now that's more than just kicking out one person, putting in a new person, or changing this law or redoing an executive order.
Mhm.
It's much more than all of that. And so that's what's sort of challenging because you know, people are being, hit between the eyes or punched in the gut about all the individual problems that need rightly so to be resisted. But at the same time, what we're trying to do, and I think we're being somewhat successful, is we're asking people to at least spend part of their time to not just react, but to proact,
Yeah.
to spend some of their time focusing on change.
How are you reach on a day-to-day basis? How are you trying to reach these people for them to be proactive?
Yeah, well, all of these events that have gone on, these street protests, the No Kings, the 50-51s, all the stuff that has happened. I mean, literally from last January 20th to today, almost every, the Tesla stuff on the street. I mean, it's been all of these street actions. So we get moved to men people to show up and make the connections to say, what you're doing, it's good as far as it goes. But again, that's only, you're just sort of trying to make things a little less bad than they were before. But to fundamentally change things, again, we're not in charge, we're not governing, we don't have power. So what is it going to take to have power? We've got to sort of change the rules of the game. And the rules of
You
the
have
game
to
in our
educate.
society is the
You have to
Constitution.
educate, and you've got a really good series that you've gotten put together on your website that started in January and went through this month for people to. It's all broken down and it's concise and it's easy. I mean, it's easy to assimilate, I think, but I'm also of the school that you are, as far as sociology and study of people and communities and all that. But I mean, that's great work.
But
And
again, give us your website where people want to find out what you're doing and how to get involved with you or speak to you or find out what really is happening.
Yeah, they can go to move2amend.org, all one word, move to amend as in amending the
Move to
Constitution.
amend.
Move2amend.org. If they want to get our propaganda, I mean information, they can move2amend.org / motion, MOTION. And that takes you to our petition. We have, 500 and nearly 30,000 people signed our petition. 725 communities have passed resolutions. 820 organizations have passed
Congratulations.
um,
support too. Become a I'm a
organizations. Yeah.
supporter.
So a
So
lot. So that's where you get a lot of info. And if people want to
And
reach
then
out,
did you support this through grants or through donations or
well, we survive basically because of supporters, individual supporters. We don't take a nickel from corporations or billionaires or big foundations or political parties or government for obvious reasons. Because when you do that, you become politically, if not economically, both dependent. So we have always good and bad. And there's a lot of good things about that. We're independent. Bad things about it is we're always operating hand to
did,
mouth because of that.
did you mean if a foreign country gives somebody, $10 billion, it doesn't affect what the government does, what they want from our
Yeah.
government?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe,
Absolutely
right?
not. I'm just thinking when they ask the press secretary, well, Kushner is getting so many billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, so many billions of dollars like, from Qatar, and she said, well, that has nothing to do. He doesn't work in government.
Yeah,
He's just
absolutely
doing
no
this
connection
as a
whatsoever.
volunteer, no connection to what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And Yana announced this series that we did over the course of an entire year, looking at lessons from U.S. social movements. Where the lessons can be drawn, good or bad. And so that can be found if people go to move2men.org / announcements. And so just the word announcements. And if you just scroll down, again, there's a bunch of stuff we've done, blasts that we've sent, monetary requests that we make. But one of them is about the culmination of that series was I led a discussion on the cultural lessons. And so that was really the lessons. The focus was on culture because, social change in this country is always operated on a two track. The one track is what kind of, we need to change the Constitution, we need to change laws. But the other track is we need to change the culture. We need to change the way people think about themselves, about their possibilities, about working together, and they go hand in hand. You got to have the one if you're going to have the other. And so anyway, that's what that series was about of
Yeah,
what
but
are
be-
the
believe it,
cultural
or- yeah,
lessons.
believe it or not, our 20 minutes is up,
Well,
and
and
we're going to have to
Greg,
get you on again,
yes,
definitely.
I have such admiration for you and Move to Amend. Takes a lot of work and energy, I know, to do that and keep calm and keep going forward. But thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you for having me and appreciate all that you do in trying to help people understand, the true nature of things and to think, differently out of the box and more humanely, sanely, and the like.
Exactly. Well, time to take us out. To everybody, we hope you have enjoyed our show. If you have any questions or comments, please send us a message at malcolmpresents@gmail.com. Remember, you can find us at malcolmpresents.com and YouTube and celebrating everyday people on Facebook and Buzzsprout. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody, and thanks again.
Thank you all.